Earth was supposed to be just another primitive rock, until two humans walked into the summit and broke the galaxy's understanding of physics with a pen. I have been teaching physics for 23 cycles at the Thessalian Institute of Advanced Sciences, and I thought I had seen everything. Absolutely everything. I had calculated orbital mechanics for 17 different star systems. I had published papers on gravitational lensing that made my colleagues weep with joy, and I had even survived a lecture hall full of first-year students who thought momentum was just a suggestion, but nothing, and I mean nothing, prepared me for the day I met the humans. The Galactic Science Summit was being held on Station Kepler 9, which orbited a beautiful blue gas giant in neutral space. Perfect location, really. The station maintained a comfortable 0.3 G throughout most of its sections, which suited about 90% of the galactic community just fine. The conference hall was massive, with transparent aluminum walls that gave us a spectacular view of the planet below, all swirling clouds and lightning storms. Very dramatic, very impressive. The kind of place where you announce important decisions about the future of interstellar civilization. And, oh, did we have an important decision to make? Earth. That weird little rock in the unfashionable end of the Orion Spur. The planet that had recently and somewhat embarrassingly achieved faster-than-light travel without anyone noticing they were even close. They had just shown up one day at the edge of consortium space, waving and smiling like they had not just horrified every established government in the known galaxy. The Galactic Council had been arguing for 6 months about what to do with them, and this summit was supposed to settle the question: could we colonize Earth? Should we even try? Was it worth the effort? I was there representing Thessara, obviously. My homeworld is a gorgeous place if I do say so myself. Low gravity, 0.47 G to be precise, with floating crystal formations and the most delicate architecture you have ever seen. Our buildings look like frozen music, all spiraling towers and impossible overhangs. You cannot build like that in heavy gravity. It simply does not work. Everything would collapse. Commander Radix was there from the Krell Empire, looking as grumpy as ever. The Krell are military types, very serious, very organized. Radix had 4 arms, and a face that looked like someone had carved it from old leather. He kept his user arms crossed while his lower arms manipulated his datapad. Very intimidating. He represented a 0.6 G homeworld, which made him practically a heavyweight by galactic standards. Dr. Milnara had flown in from the Pelian Confederacy. Pelia is a 0.2 G world, mostly ocean, and Milnara was about as delicate as they come. She was tall, maybe 8 feet, and so thin you worried a strong breeze might snap her in half. Her skin had this translucent quality that showed the shimmer of her internal organs. Beautiful species, really absolutely terrible at handling physical stress. And then there was Engineer Breschke, a Thrumite from one of those dense core mining colonies. Thrumites are short, stocky, about 4 feet tall but built like living boulders. Breschke probably came from the highest gravity world among us. Maybe he certainly acted like he was the toughest being in the room, which, to be fair, he probably was, before the humans arrived. Anyway, we were all standing around the central platform reviewing the data about Earth, and let me tell you, the numbers looked wrong. Just completely wrong. Surface gravity of 1 point. Commander Radix kept shaking his head, all 4 hands gesturing at the holographic display. These readings must be corrupted, he growled. No sapient species evolves under those conditions. It is biologically improbable. Improbable, but apparently not impossible, Dr. Milnara said, her voice like wind chimes. She looked worried, which was fair. If Earth's gravity was real, she would not survive 10 minutes on the surface. The question is whether their biology is compatible with standard galactic environments, or if we need to quarantine the entire system. That is when the doors opened. 2 of them walked in. Just 2, not a whole delegation, not a crowd of diplomats. Just 2 humans in simple gray uniforms. The one in front was tall, maybe 6 feet, with dark skin and graying hair cut very short. He carried a small briefcase in one hand like it weighed nothing. The other was a woman, slightly shorter, with sharp features and blonde hair pulled back in a tight knot. She had the walk of a soldier. You know the type. All controlled movement and constant awareness. "Good morning, everyone," the man said, smiling broadly. His accent was strange, all hard consonants and rolling sounds. "I am Marcus Webb, theoretical physicist from the Johannesburg Institute. This is Lieutenant Eva Kovacs, military scientific advisor. Thank you for inviting us to this summit. We are thrilled to be here. Thrilled. He said, thrilled. Like this was a pleasant social gathering and not a council deciding whether his entire planet should be open to colonization. Breschke snorted, which sounded like rocks grinding together. You are the humans? You look fragile. Marcus laughed. Actually laughed. Well, appearances can be deceiving, Engineer Breschke. We are very much looking forward to discussing Earth's environmental conditions with all of you. Your gravity readings are extreme, Commander Roddick said bluntly. 1.0 G is beyond the tolerance range for most species. How do you function? Function? Eva spoke for the first time, raising one eyebrow. Commander, we do not just function. We thrive. Earth's gravity is not an obstacle. It is just home. Dr. Milnara made a small distressed sound. But the stress on your skeletal system alone must be enormous. The cardiovascular demands, the energy expenditure just to remain upright. Sure, Marcus agreed cheerfully, setting his briefcase down on the conference table. And that is when I noticed something. The briefcase hit the table with a solid thunk, loud enough to make Milnara flinch. He had just been carrying that like it was empty. Earth is a high-pressure environment. No doubt about it. But you adapt to what you grow up with, right? You all seem perfectly comfortable here at 0.3 G. To us this feels like floating. Floating, I repeated, not quite believing what I was hearing. This feels like floating to you? Well, yeah, Eva said, shrugging. And then casually, so casually it seemed impossible, she bent her knees and jumped. Just a little hop, barely any effort. She went straight up about 4 feet, hung in the air for what felt like forever, and landed softly. See, barely any effort required. On Earth I could not get half that height with the same jump. We all stared. Every single one of us just stared at her. Commander Roddick's faceplates shifted color, flushing darker. That is physically impossible. The energy required to achieve that height in this gravity at your body mass would require muscle density far beyond standard biological parameters. Or, Marcus said gently, still smiling that infuriating smile. It requires muscle density adapted to 1.0 G operations, which is exactly what we have. That was when the arguing started. And oh, what an argument it was. You are exaggerating, Breschke insisted, slamming one thick hand on the table. Well, gently placing it really, but he clearly thought he was slamming it. 1.0 G is not that different from 0.8 G. I have worked in higher gravity fields. It is uncomfortable, yes, but not this mythical extreme environment you are describing. Marcus tilted his head, considering. Okay, I understand your skepticism. Really, I do. Numbers on a screen do not mean much without context. So how about we run a simple demonstration? Something basic that anyone can understand. What kind of demonstration? I asked, curious despite myself. I mean, what could they possibly show us that would prove anything? We were scientists. We understood physics. Gravity was gravity. Nothing complicated, Marcus said, reaching into his jacket pocket. He pulled out a pen. Just a standard ballpoint pen, the kind you use for taking notes. Blue plastic casing, metal clip, maybe 6 inches long. I am going to drop this pen. First here in your comfortable 0D environment. Then, if you will allow us access, in one of the station's 1.0 G simulation chambers. Dr. Milnara actually laughed, a tinkling sound like breaking glass. A pen? You want to demonstrate gravitational effects with a pen? Why not? Eva asked, crossing her arms. Simple tools reveal simple truths. Commander Roddick waved one hand dismissively. This is absurd. We are wasting time. The gravitational constant is the gravitational constant. Dropping a small object will prove nothing we do not already know. Then humor us, Marcus said pleasantly. It will take 5 minutes. I sighed. Fine. Drop your pen. Let us get this theatrical nonsense over with so we can discuss actual science. Marcus smiled wider. Oh, that smile should have warned me. That was the smile of someone who knew exactly what was about to happen and was thoroughly enjoying the anticipation. He held the pen up, arm extended at shoulder height, and opened his fingers. The pen fell. Obviously, gravity pulled it down at the standard 0.3 G acceleration. It hit the conference table with a soft tap, bounced once, and rolled to a stop. Completely unremarkable. Exactly what anyone would expect. Fascinating. Breschke said sarcastically. A pen fell. I am astounded. Right, Marcus agreed, picking up the pen. Now, let us try this in a proper 1.0 G field. Station Kepler 9 does have high-gravity simulation chambers, correct? For diplomatic guests from heavy G worlds? Yes, Commander Rodix confirmed. Section 7, Deck 12. We maintain 3 chambers at various gravitational constants for visiting dignitaries. Chamber 1 is currently set to 1.0 G. Actually, we prepared it in case you found our standard gravity too disorienting. Perfect, Eva said. Let us go. The walk to Section 7 took about 10 minutes, and the whole way there, Bresh kept muttering about theatrical wastes of time. Dr. Milnara looked nervous, her translucent skin shimmering with color shifts that indicated anxiety. I just wanted to see what the humans thought they were proving. Commander Rodix led the way, his military bearing making everyone else feel like we were on a parade march. The simulation chamber was fairly standard. 20 feet by 20 feet reinforced walls, adjustable gravity plating in the floor, ceiling, and walls. The floor itself was made of durasteel composite, the same material we used for starship hulls. Tough stuff, rated to withstand micrometeorite impacts and extreme temperature variations. The chamber could simulate up to 2.0 G, though I could not imagine why anyone would voluntarily subject themselves to that torture. Commander Rodix worked the controls and I watched the gravity display climb from 0.3 G to 1.0 G. Inside the chamber, a set of calibration weights on a shelf visibly sagged, pressing down harder against their supports. The atmospheric processor hummed louder, compensating for the increased air pressure at floor level. There, Rodix announced. 1.0 G stable and holding. Now can we please move past this demonstration? Absolutely, Marcus said. He stepped up to the chamber's entry door, which had a small airlock system to prevent gravity differential from causing atmospheric disruption. I am going inside. Watch carefully. He cycled through the airlock, and the inner door opened. Marcus stepped into the 1.0 G environment, and I swear I expected him to collapse immediately. That much gravity should have brought him to his knees. Dr. Milnara would have been crushed flat. Even Bresh would have struggled. Marcus stood there, completely relaxed, breathing normally. He looked comfortable. No, worse than comfortable. He looked like he had just gotten home after a long trip. His shoulders settled, his posture straightened, and he actually sighed with what sounded like relief. "Oh, that is much better," he said, his voice coming through the chamber's communication system. "You have no idea how exhausting it is to move in low gravity. Everything feels wrong. Your proprioception gets all confused." He held up the pen again, same position as before, shoulder height, arm extended. "Watch the floor," he said. He dropped the pen. The sound it made hitting the floor was not a tap. It was a crack. A sharp, violent crack that echoed through the chamber and made all of us jump. The pen hit the durasteel floor and I saw with my own eyes a visible dent appear in the surface, a tiny crater, maybe 2 millimeters deep, with stress fractures radiating outward in a spiderweb pattern. The pen itself bounced once much lower than before and clattered to a stop. One end of it had deformed from the impact, the plastic casing cracked, the metal clip bent at an angle. We all stared. Again. Apparently that was becoming a theme with humans. "That is impossible," Bresh whispered. "That floor is rated for starship construction. A pen cannot damage it. The kinetic energy is too low. Not at 0.3 G. "No," Marcus agreed, bending down to pick up the pen. Even that simple motion, the squat and rise, looked effortless for him. But at 1.0 G, the math changes significantly. This pen has a mass of about 10 grams, falling from 1.5 meters in 1.0 G. It reaches a velocity of approximately 5.4 meters per second at impact. That gives us a kinetic energy of roughly 0. Now that does not sound like much, but concentrate that energy into the pen's impact point, which has a surface area of maybe 2 square millimeters, and you get an impact pressure of about 75 megapascals. He looked at us expectantly like we were students who should be following along. Dr. Milnara's voice shook. "That is equivalent to the pressure exerted by industrial cutting tools." "More or less," Marcus confirmed. "And that is just a pen. A casual drop. No force behind it except gravity. Now consider what happens when you scale up. A tool dropped from a workbench. A person falling from standing height. The gravitational potential energy Earth's environment builds into every single object. Every single moment is orders of magnitude beyond what most species experience." Eva stepped up to the chamber window, her expression serious now. "Earth is classified in your databases as a high-gravity world, correct?" But what you need to understand is that it is not just high gravity. Earth is a death world. Class 4 habitability rating, extreme weather patterns, tectonic instability, high oxygen atmosphere, aggressive microbial life, and yes, crushing gravity. Humans did not evolve despite these conditions. We evolved because of them. Every generation, Marcus continued. Every single day of our lives, Earth's gravity is trying to pull us down. Our bones grew dense to resist compression fractures. Our muscles developed redundant fiber structures to maintain constant tension against gravitational load. Our cardiovascular systems pump fluid upward against a pressure gradient that would cause most species to experience immediate syncope. We are not adapted to one point. I found my voice, though it came out quieter than I intended. You are saying that everything about your biology is a response to environmental pressure we would consider lethal. Not just lethal, Eva said quietly. Continuously lethal. A low-gravity species visiting Earth does not just risk injury. They risk death from simply standing up too quickly. Orthostatic shock, cardiac failure, skeletal collapse. Your bodies would betray you because they were never designed for that constant, relentless pull. Marcus stepped back through the airlock, holding the damaged pen up like a trophy. This is what we wanted you to understand. When we say Earth's gravity is home, we do not mean we tolerate it. We mean we require it. And everything, absolutely everything about human physiology is built to function in an environment that would kill most of you within hours. The silence that followed was profound. Even Bresh had nothing to say. We just stood there staring at that tiny dent in the durasteel floor, trying to process what it meant. A pen. A simple ballpoint pen. And it had cracked starship-grade flooring. What could a human do? Lieutenant Eva Kovacs looked at each of us in turn, her expression unreadable. Would you like to see what human movement looks like in our native gravity? I think it might provide additional context. Yes, Commander Roddick said immediately. His voice had lost its dismissive edge. Now he sounded concerned, which was significantly more unsettling. Show us. Eva nodded and entered the chamber through the airlock. The moment she crossed into the 1.0G environment, her entire demeanor changed. In the Station 0's Y3G, she had moved with careful precision, almost cautious. Now, in full gravity, she looked predatory. There was no other word for it. Her movements became fluid, powerful, efficient. I will start with basic locomotion, she announced. Walking, running, jumping. Standard movement patterns. She walked across the chamber. Just walked. But the way her feet struck the floor, the sound of each impact, the visible flex in her leg muscles, it was like watching a piece of heavy machinery in operation. Each step was a controlled fall and recovery, her body managing forces that would have shattered Dr. Milnara's legs. Then she ran. She accelerated from standing to a full sprint in maybe 3 steps, her feet hammering against the durasteel floor with rhythmic crashes. The impact vibrations transmitted through the floor, through the walls, and I could feel them through my feet outside the chamber. She hit the far wall, planted one foot in reverse direction without slowing down. The pivot left a scuff mark on the floor. Her speed must be close to 8 meters per second, I muttered, doing the math in my head. And 1.0 G. That acceleration requires tremendous force generation. 10 meters per second actually, Marcus corrected pleasantly. Eva runs a bit faster than average for humans. She has military training. A bit faster than average. These creatures had averages for moving at speeds that would tear most species apart. Eva came to a stop in the center of the chamber, and jumped. Not a little hop like she had demonstrated earlier. A real jump. She bent her knees, swung her arms, and launched herself upward. In 1.0 G, against twice the gravitational force I experienced at home, she rose a full meter off the ground, hung there for a frozen moment, and landed with a boom that I felt in my chest. The floor where she landed now had boot prints. Actual impressions in starship-grade durasteel. Would anyone like to try? Eva asked, slightly breathless but still smiling. The chamber is large enough for multiple occupants. I will go, Bresh announced, puffing out his chest. Of course he would. The Thrumite pride themselves on physical resilience. I have worked in 0.8G environments. This cannot be much different. Oh, how wrong he was. Bresh cycled through the airlock, and the moment he stepped into the 1.0G field, he staggered. His stocky legs, built like tree trunks, actually buckled slightly. He caught himself, straightened with visible effort, and stood there breathing hard. It is heavier than I expected, he admitted, which must have cost him considerable pride, but manageable. Try walking, Eva suggested gently. Bresh took a step. His foot came down hard, too hard, and he nearly lost his balance. His second step was worse, a stumbling lurch that sent him careening sideways. Eva caught his arm, steadying him with one hand, and the ease with which she held up his considerable weight was disturbing. I cannot, Bresh gasped. My legs, they are not responding correctly. The weight is too much. You are experiencing approximately 25% more gravity than your homeworld standard, Marcus explained. Your musculoskeletal system is not adapted for this load. No shame in it. Evolution is specific. Eva helped Bresh back to the airlock, and he practically collapsed once he returned to 0.3 G. His face was flushed dark, his breathing labored. How do you live like that, he demanded. Every moment, that constant pressure. We do not know anything else, Eva said simply. To us, this feels strange. She gestured at the station's normal gravity. Everything is too light, too floaty. Our bodies are calibrated for Earth, and anywhere else feels wrong. Dr. Melnara's voice was barely a whisper. I could not survive even entering that chamber. My species' bone structure would collapse under that stress. We would suffocate as our own body weight compressed our respiratory organs. Most species could not survive it, Marcus agreed. Earth's environment is hostile to the majority of galactic life. But here is what you need to understand. Humans are not just surviving that environment. We are thriving in it. Our children play in it. Our elderly endure it for decades. Every single human you will ever meet has spent their entire life in a constant state of resistance training against a force trying to crush them into the ground. That statement hung in the air like a weapon. Resistance training, I repeated slowly, the implications crystallizing in my mind. You mean humans are always, constantly, every moment of every day exercising against gravitational load? Exactly, Marcus said. Your species go to specialized facilities to build strength. You use equipment, mechanical resistance, carefully controlled exercise regimens. Humans just stand up in the morning. We walk to the bathroom. We pick up a cup of water. Every single action we take requires us to move mass against Earth's gravity. We are all, every single one of us, carrying our own weight plus whatever we are holding. Every moment we are awake. Eva nodded. A human infant, barely able to walk, is already performing feats of strength that would challenge many adult species. By the time a human child reaches 10 years old, their bone density, muscle fiber count, and cardiovascular capacity exceeds most galactic species adults, not because we train them, just because they live. This is horrifying, Dr. Melnara said faintly. You are describing a species that is biologically weaponized by their own environment. We prefer to think of it as well adapted, Marcus said diplomatically. I was still processing, still trying to wrap my mind around what this meant, when I made a mistake. I had been holding my data tablet the entire time, and in my distraction I had unconsciously gripped it tighter, much tighter. The tablet, designed for Thessaran physiology and Thessaran gravity, was built to be lightweight and durable under normal conditions, but my hands were shaking from the stress of this conversation, and I was squeezing harder than I realized, and the tablet just cracked. The screen spiderwebbed with fractures, the casing split along one edge, and the device went dead in my hands. I stared at it in shock. I did not even squeeze that hard. You are experiencing acute stress, Eva observed. Your body is flooding with adrenaline analogs. Your grip strength is probably elevated 30 to 40% above your baseline. In low gravity, that is enough to damage equipment designed for low pressure handling. Marcus picked up his briefcase, the one he had been carrying so casually. He held it out to me. This weighs 15 kilograms loaded. About 33 pounds in Earth measurements. Would you like to try holding it? Just to understand the difference in what we consider normal handling weight. I took it, or rather I tried to take it. The moment he released it and the full weight transferred to my hand, my arm dropped like a stone. The case hit the floor with a crash, and pain shot through my shoulder. I might have torn something. My entire arm went numb. Sorry, Marcus said quickly, genuinely apologetic. I should have warned you more clearly. Here, let me get that. He picked up the briefcase one-handed, effortlessly, like it was a feather. Commander Rodix had gone very quiet. When he finally spoke, his voice was carefully controlled. Let me make sure I understand this correctly. Human children, juvenile members of your species, possess greater physical capabilities than most adult galactic citizens. In terms of strength, endurance, and durability, yes, Eva confirmed. A 10-year-old human child can typically lift 20 to 30 kilograms. They can run for extended periods. They can fall from significant heights and sustain only minor injuries. Their bones are already dense enough to handle impacts that would shatter most species' skeletal structures. And adults? Roddick pressed. An average adult human can lift 70 to 90 kilograms, Marcus said. Trained individuals, soldiers, athletes, laborers, they can manage significantly more. The current human record for deadlift, that is lifting a weighted bar from the ground, is over 500 kilograms. 500 kilograms. I could not even process that number. My entire body weight was maybe 40 kilograms. These creatures could lift more than 12 of me. Simultaneously, Dr. Milnara made a sound that might have been a sob. And you want to integrate into galactic society? You want to visit our worlds, work on our stations, interact with our populations? Do you not see the danger? You could kill any of us by accident. A casual touch could break bone. A moment of inattention could be lethal. We are very careful, Eva said softly. Trust me, we know how fragile everyone else is. Human children are taught from an early age about proportional force, about being gentle, about controlling our strength. We have entire cultural frameworks built around not accidentally hurting people. Do you think this is easy for us? Do you think we enjoy being surrounded by people we could harm without meaning to? There was real pain in her voice, real frustration. We did not choose to evolve on a death world, Marcus added. We did not ask to be born with bone density that makes us living weapons. We just are, and we have to live with that reality every single day. Yes, we are strong. Yes, we are durable, but that strength comes with constant vigilance, constant control, constant awareness that we are different, that we are dangerous. The silence that followed was heavy, oppressive, filled with implications none of us wanted to examine too closely. I looked down at my broken data tablet, at my still numb arm, at the dent in the floor from a dropped pen. And I realized with growing horror that we had not even begun to understand what humans were capable of. This was just them standing still, moving normally, existing in their native environment. What happened when they tried? Commander Roddick broke the silence with the question. I think we were all desperately trying not to ask. What about combat? His voice was flat, professional, but I could hear the fear underneath. Lieutenant Kovacs, you are a military advisor. In a combat scenario, operating in variable gravity environments, what are human capabilities? Eva's expression went very still, very controlled. This was not a question she wanted to answer. I could tell, but she was too professional to deflect. That depends on the environment, Commander. In Earth-standard gravity, humans are competent fighters, well-trained, disciplined, effective. We have thousands of years of martial development, but in low gravity, she paused, choosing her words carefully. In low gravity, humans become something else entirely. Demonstrate, Roddick ordered. It was not a request. Eva looked at Marcus, who nodded slightly. She stepped back into the chamber and the airlock cycled shut behind her. But this time she did not ask for 1 point. Roddick worked the controls, and the gravity inside the chamber dropped to match the rest of the station. Eva's posture shifted immediately, becoming looser, more fluid. She moved to the center of the chamber and turned to face us through the transparent wall. Basic hand-to-hand combat sequence, she announced. Standard training exercise. No weapons. No protective gear. Just movement. What happened next was beautiful and absolutely terrifying. Eva exploded into motion. There is no other way to describe it. She launched herself across the chamber in a single leap, covering 5 meters horizontally, tucked into a roll mid-air, and came up already spinning. Her legs swept out in a kick that would have taken an opponent's head off, and the momentum carried her into a backflip that sent her 3 meters straight up. She caught the ceiling with one hand, used it to redirect her trajectory, and came down in a strike position that cracked the floor. The entire sequence took maybe 4 seconds. She continued, demonstrating combinations that defied belief. Spinning kicks that used the low gravity to generate devastating rotational force. Grappling throws that sent imaginary opponents flying across the chamber. Ground techniques that leveraged her mass against reduced gravitational resistance. Every movement was precise, controlled, and utterly lethal. When she stopped, breathing only slightly harder, we were all pressed against the chamber window like horrified children watching a monster. In low gravity, Eva said quietly, human mass becomes a weapon. Our bone density, our muscle strength, The very weight that grounds us on Earth becomes momentum. We can change direction mid-air. We can strike from angles that are physically impossible for low-gravity species, and our durability means we can absorb impacts that would incapacitate opponents. A human soldier in 0.3G is not just dangerous, they are overwhelming. How many? Rodix asked hoarsely. In a combat scenario, how many standard troops could one human soldier engage? Eva met his eyes. Conservatively, against typical galactic security forces, one human could handle 15 to 20 opponents before being overwhelmed by sheer numbers. And that is assuming the opponents are armed and trained. Against civilians? She shook her head. It would not be a fight, it would be a massacre. Marcus cleared his throat. There have been incidents. Not many, thankfully, but enough to establish protocols. 3 years ago, a human mining crew was working on asteroid station Freya 7. Low-gravity environment. 0.2G. Mixed species workforce. One of the human miners, a man named Chen, was celebrating his daughter's birthday. He got the news over comms, got excited, and slapped his Pelian coworker on the back. You know, friendly gesture, congratulatory pat. Dr. Milnara made a small whimpering sound. She knew what was coming. He broke 6 of the Pelian's supportive cartilage structures, Marcus continued, ruptured an organ cluster. The Pelian spent 2 months in medical recovery. Chen was horrified. He had not even hit hard by human standards. Just a friendly, but in 0.2G with human muscle density against Pelian physiology. He spread his hands. The force differential was catastrophic. There have been 11 similar incidents in the last 5 years, Eva added. All accidents. All humans trying to be friendly or helpful. Handshakes that crushed finger bones, hugs that cracked ribs. One particularly tragic case involved a human child hugging a Thessaran exchange student. The child was 7 years old. She did not need to finish that sentence. I could imagine it clearly enough, and the image made me feel sick. The economic implications are equally problematic, Marcus said. Human labor in space is incredibly valuable. In low-gravity environments, one human worker can perform the physical tasks of 5 to 7 standard workers. We do not need mechanical assistance for heavy lifting. We do not tire as quickly. We can operate for longer shifts. Station managers love hiring humans because we are so efficient, but insurance costs are astronomical because of the injury risk to other species. Reshk finally found his voice. What about your military? Your actual trained soldiers? You mentioned space marines. Eva and Marcus exchanged a long look. Eva sighed. Human space marines are banned from shore leave on 70% of galactic stations, not because they misbehave. They are actually extremely disciplined, but their mere presence causes panic. A squad of marines in powered armor, in low gravity, could take over a station in under 10 minutes. Station security knows it. Station populations know it. Everyone knows it. So we are not allowed off our ships in most ports. The Krell Empire requested a joint training exercise last year, Rodix said suddenly, his voice distant, remembering. Human Marines and Krell shock troops. They said it would build cooperation and mutual understanding. I heard about that, Eva said carefully. How did it go? It lasted 45 minutes before we called it off, Rodix admitted. Your Marines were not even trying to win. They were pulling their strikes, moving slower than their maximum speed, actively handicapping themselves. And they still dominated completely. My troops, elite soldiers with decades of combat experience, could not touch them. It was humiliating. The weight of his words settled over us like a burial shroud. I thought about my homeworld Thessara, with its delicate architecture and floating crystal gardens. I thought about the families living there, the children, the elderly. I thought about what would happen if humans decided for any reason that they wanted to take it. Our security forces would be meaningless. Our defenses would be irrelevant. We would not stand a chance. And humans knew it. They had always known it. That was why Eva sounded so frustrated earlier. Why Marcus looked tired when he talked about being careful. They were living weapons trying desperately not to hurt anyone, surrounded by people made of glass and paper. You see the problem now, Marcus said quietly. Earth is not just a high-gravity world. We are not just another species requesting diplomatic relations. We are an existential threat to galactic stability, and we did not even mean to be. We just wanted to explore the stars. We just wanted to meet other civilizations. We just wanted to not be alone in the universe. His voice cracked slightly on those last words, And I realized something that made everything infinitely worse. They were lonely. These terrifying, powerful, dangerous creatures were desperately, achingly lonely. And we were too afraid of them to be their friends. What had we done? What had the galaxy become when strength was punished with isolation? The vote came 3 hours later, after we had all retreated to separate corners to process what we had witnessed. The conference hall felt different now, heavier somehow, even though the gravity had not changed. We all knew what the vote would be before Commander Rodix called for it. The question before this summit, Rodix announced formally, is whether Earth should be opened for galactic colonization. All those in favor of colonization. Silence. Not a single hand raised. Not even Brecht, who prided himself on toughness, could bring himself to vote yes. All those opposed? Every hand went up. Mine included. The vote was unanimous. However, Dr. Milnara added quickly, her voice trembling but determined, I move that we clarify this decision. We are not voting to exclude humans from galactic society. We are voting to acknowledge that Earth itself is incompatible with colonization by standard galactic species. Humans are welcome in space, on stations, on compatible worlds, but their homeworld remains theirs alone. Seconded, I said immediately. It was important that distinction be made. We were not rejecting humans. We were just accepting reality. Marcus and Eva received the news with quiet dignity. No protest, no argument, just a simple nod of understanding. We expected this outcome, Marcus said. Honestly, we would have voted the same way if positions were reversed. Earth is not safe for most of you. We know that. But we hope, Eva added, looking at each of us in turn, that this does not mean isolation. We have things to offer the galaxy. Our engineering, our problem-solving approaches, our perspective from a world that tried very hard to kill us. We want to be part of this community, even if we have to be careful about how we integrate. The summit concluded with handshakes, though everyone was very, very careful about grip strength. Watching Commander Rodix gently, almost fearfully, grasp Marcus's hand was surreal. These were diplomats, scientists, military officers, and they were terrified of a friendly gesture. I stayed behind after the others left, watching through the observation window as the humans packed their equipment. Marcus was loading cases onto a transport cart, and I noticed something that made me laugh. Actually laugh, though it came out slightly hysterical. The other species' equipment was loaded onto anti-gravity sleds, floating gently as engineers guided them with minimal effort. Marcus was just picking up cases and stacking them, one after another. Each case probably weighed as much as I did. He carried them like they were empty boxes, loading them efficiently while chatting pleasantly with a station worker who looked absolutely amazed. That was going to be humanity's role in the galaxy, I realized. The ones who could carry the heavy things. The ones who could go where gravity made everyone else falter. The ones who could do the dangerous work, the hard labor, the tasks that required strength we simply did not possess. They would be essential. They would be valued. But they would always be separate, always isolated by the very capabilities that made them special. I thought about evolutionary pressure, about how environment shapes biology. Every species in the galaxy had adapted to their homeworld's conditions. We Thesserans became light and graceful for our low gravity. The Pelians became efficient for their aquatic environment. The Krell became organized for their hive structures. And humans became strong. Stronger than they needed to be for anything except surviving a world that constantly tried to crush them. The irony was almost poetic. Humans were too powerful for most of the galaxy, too dense, too dangerous, too overwhelming. But they were also too specialized for Earth. Too dependent on that crushing gravity. Too adapted to their death world, to ever truly feel comfortable anywhere else. They were trapped by their own evolution, forever caught between being too much for us and not enough for themselves. Marcus finished loading and waved goodbye to me through the window. A casual, friendly wave, the kind of gesture that could break bones if he was not careful, that could shatter equipment if he forgot himself, that could be lethal in the wrong circumstances. I waved back, just as carefully. As I walked back to my quarters, I passed a maintenance closet where someone had already started repairs on the simulation chamber floor. The durasteel panel with the dent from Eva's landing and the crack from the pen drop had been removed, tagged for metallurgical analysis. Some engineer wanted to study the failure point, understand exactly how much force had been required to damage starship-grade material. I paused, looking at that cracked panel sitting in the hallway. A pen. The entire summit, All our assumptions about biology and physics and what was possible for sapient life had been shattered by a dropped pen. Such a simple thing, such a small demonstration, but it had shown us the truth. Humans were not like us. They would never be like us. They came from a world that made them into something the galaxy had never seen before, something beautiful and terrible and absolutely extraordinary, and we would never truly understand what it meant to be them. To carry that weight, every single day. To live in a universe that felt too light and too fragile and too delicate for the way they were built. The pen had fallen, and with it all our comfortable assumptions about what life in the galaxy could be. I found myself smiling despite everything, despite the fear and the uncertainty and the complicated future we all now faced. Humans had finally reached the stars, and nothing would ever be the same again. All because of a pen,